And this is our video for today. In this episode, I will talk about the most inexplicable and mysterious places on our planet. I will show places that defy the laws of physics, such as the highway to hell and the death road. You will also learn about the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle and the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Additionally, I will show you terrifying places discovered on Google Maps. Sit back and relax, there is a lot to see. One of the places I will talk about is the Upside Down Waterfall. It is located on the most populous island in the Hawaiian archipelago. Instead of falling, the water seems to go up. But why does this happen? The water falls from the top of the mountain, but the wind, which is common in this area, catches the water and carries it back up to the source of the waterfall. The stronger the wind, the more impressive the waterfall looks. Another place I will talk about is the Valley of Jatinga. Imagine you are walking through a valley at night, and suddenly dozens of birds start falling on you. No, they are not attacking you, they are falling weak and unconscious to the ground. It sounds crazy, I know, but such a place exists and it is not fiction. But the scariest part is that the reason for this behavior of the birds is unknown, and scientists can only speculate. According to them, there is a geomagnetic anomaly in the area. The explanation is not bad, but the anomaly only appears sometimes and affects only the birds. Newgrange is an unusual megalithic cult structure located in Ireland. Located about 40 kilometers north of Dublin, it is one of the oldest structures not only in Ireland but in the whole world. Scientists believe it is 700 years older than the Egyptian pyramids. In fact, Newgrange is a gallery tomb, but researchers still do not know exactly why this long corridor with a transverse chamber was built. At the same time, not all scholars agree that Newgrange is exactly a tomb. Some believe it is an observatory because during the winter solstice, a morning sunlight penetrates the entrance hole and illuminates the chamber from within. But that's not all that is interesting about this mysterious place. This enigmatic site seems to have been built not 5,000 years ago, but much later. It is still not known how ancient peoples were able to build such a perfect structure that not only managed to withstand the test of time, preserving its original appearance, but also remained completely waterproof for 5,000 years. Easter Island. This island is interesting for several reasons. First of all, it is one of the most remote regions in the world, with the nearest inhabited area located about 2,000 kilometers away, and tourists have to swim or fly 3,500 kilometers to Chile, to which the island belongs. The main feature of the island is not its isolation, but the strange moai statues, enormous statues ranging from 3 to 10 or even 20 meters in height, weighing over 10 tons, that still puzzle science. In the case of the moai, not everything is clear. It is not known exactly how these statues were made, how they were placed on the island, and most importantly, how they were made. But Easter Island is not only interesting for its statues, but also for those strange wooden boards called hombo-hombo, on which the scriptures of the ancient local Aborigines are written. Just like the statues, the purpose of hombo-hombo is unknown. In general, Easter Island is a mystery, and a mystery of this place has yet to be solved, which makes this whole island seem like a branch of something strange on Earth. Monte Kailash is one of the most mysterious mountains in Asia, despite not being the tallest mountain in Asia or the world, unlike the well-known Mount Everest. Located in Tibet, it is the highest peak in the region, reaching a height of about 6.5 to 6.6 kilometers. Mount Everest is taller by up to 2 kilometers and has been climbed over 1,000 times, but no one has ever reached the summit of Mount Kailash. Those who have tried say that it is incredibly difficult to climb, and scientists cannot give an exact answer as to why. Local residents believe that Mount Kailash is the center of the universe and that the great god Shiva himself dwells on its summit. They believe that it is impossible to climb to the top due to the power of Shiva resonating in the mountain. But that's not all. Another mystery related to this mountain is that when you look at Mount Kailash, you can see that the world is represented by a pyramidal shape. Researchers say that the facets are perfectly oriented towards the cardinal directions, which has led many people to believe that Kailash is not a natural mountain, but a man-made structure left behind by an unknown civilization or even aliens. Jihlava Catacombs. Jihlava is a city in southeastern Czech Republic, and one of its main attractions are the catacombs. They stretch for 25 to 30 kilometers and run throughout the entire city. They were originally mines for silver mining and later used for domestic needs. These catacombs have many secrets. Archaeologists who have worked in the catacombs reported hearing organ sounds in some places. In one of the passages, they found a shiny staircase emitting red light. Similar stories have been told by tourists who have visited the catacombs. Among other things, they claim to have encountered ghosts on the surface. Both archaeologists and tourists have been examined, and the version that they were mass hallucinations has been excluded. Scientists have not yet been able to unravel the mystery of this place and the causes of mysterious phenomena in the Czech underground. The Medveditská mountain range is a chain of small hills arranged in an oval shape. Local residents consider the mountain range to be one of the most mysterious places on the planet. According to witnesses, unidentified flying objects often appear there, and lightning strikes the mountain range, sometimes hitting the same trees repeatedly until only charred stumps remain. Balls of lightning flying low above the ground are also not uncommon here. Additionally, it is interesting to note that the mountain range is literally riddled with mysterious tunnels above ground. The locals have attributed them to all sorts of origins, such as secret government bases, remnants of ancient civilizations, and a mystical transportation network, but no one has been able to uncover the exact nature of these tunnels and the mystery that the Medveditská mountain range holds. The Hoya Forest, located near the Romanian city, is considered one of the most mysterious places in the world. Although it appears to be an ordinary forest, local residents report strange and eerie occurrences. The area is nicknamed the Romanian Bermuda Triangle due to the paranormal phenomena that have been recorded there numerous times. It is said that the forest is haunted and that UFOs often appear there. Additionally, there are reports that photos taken in the forest show a scary and unknown face. Although it may seem like a tourist attraction, foreign tourists agree with local residents about the strangeness of the Hoya Forest. Scientists still do not have an explanation for the mysterious phenomena in the Romanian forest. Baalbek, the ancient city located in Lebanon, used to be one of the most important cultural centers in the ancient world, but today it is almost completely destroyed and forgotten, which is a shame because it is one of the most mysterious and inexplicable places. One of the most interesting sights in the city are the terraces, which are covered with huge stone blocks weighing from 300 to 1,000 tons. One of the best sites, called the Stone of the South, weighs over 1,000 tons, just to give an idea of the scale. Only a few blocks of the Great Pyramid of Giza weigh 15 tons. But that's not all. The blocks in Baalbek are stacked with incredible accuracy and precision, so much so that even a fine needle cannot pass between some of them. How could ancient people create something like this when we can't even create a copy of such stone blocks with modern technology? Besides the Stone of the South in Baalbek, there are several other mysterious giant stones in the world. Next, I will talk about the enormous stone and also show interesting places and objects that defy the laws of physics. According to legend, the gods placed a stone on a slope in India as a reminder to the people that the impossible is possible. Over the years, however, the landmark was no longer known as a celestial stone. According to some sources, the stone of the sky god was renamed the Krishna Butterball by local guides. The 250-ton rock is famous for being located on a slope at a 45-degree angle. The giant rock is 6 meters tall and 5 meters in diameter and is popular among tourists. It has been hanging on the slope for centuries but has never slid down the hill or even moved, although attempts have been made to push it. Historians believe that the first attempt was made in the 12th century, when the local king wanted to move the divine stone to keep it out of the hands of sculptors. According to the law, damaging the stone was prohibited, but the idea of shaping it occurred. Despite the good intentions of the king, the locals did not move the stone, and the king had to abandon his plan. Another attempt was made in the early 20th century. In 1908, Madras Governor Arthur Lowe intended to remove the stone from the hill as he feared the rock could roll down at any moment and destroy the buildings in the city at the foot of the hill. 7 elephants were used to move the stone, but the rock did not move an inch. To modern scientists, Krishna's butterball should not represent a mystery. Today, researchers have access to dozens of different and ultra-precise analysis methods, yet scientists have not been able to give a coherent explanation for why a large stone on a steep slope cannot roll down, even with force. According to the most popular theory, the rock's stability is based on the force of friction and the location of the center of gravity. Shaky stone. It's hard to imagine, but the butterball of Krishna from India is not alone in its uniqueness, as a similar rock can be found on the other side of the world in the city of Tandil, Argentina. There was once one of the most remarkable landmarks in Argentina, a stone that weighed around 300 tons. Why are we talking about it in the past tense? Well, the fact is that gravity eventually acted upon the giant rock, which has been attracting tourists to its slope for a long time. People were particularly impressed by the fact that the rock swayed with the gusts of wind but did not move as if a mystical force was holding the natural monument to the rock. Travelers could hardly believe what they saw after spending just one night in Tandil. The next morning, they immediately ran to check if the rock had fallen. Local legend has it that the stone appeared on the slope thousands of years ago when a deity descended to earth. It was the deity who taught the people various skills and agriculture, but the deity did not stay long with those people. However, she left a common mark, a shaky stone that remained on the mountain until the son of the sun returned about 100 years ago. Something unexpected happened, the stone fell from the rock. It is not known what caused the fall, whether it was erosion of the soil or an explosion during work in a mine, both of which are considered the most realistic assumptions. Nevertheless, the people of the city were shocked by the event, and they mourned the shaky stone for years after it fell. According to one version, a certain local resident who wanted to show off to tourists might have pushed the stone. In the French Gulf of Bernaf, there is one of the most unusual roads on the planet, the Passage du Gois. It is unusual because no one can cross it, but how is this possible? In fact, it is quite simple. The Passage du Gois is a tidal road, which means that the route is taken by water, connecting the French island of Normandy with the French mainland. It is a strip of asphalt that runs in the middle of the sea. It is almost impossible to cross this road because if you cross it perpendicularly, you will find yourself in the water. However, the road is accessible for cars only a few times a day when the water recedes and the Passage du Gois opens for a few hours. During this time, drivers can drive along a 4 kilometers stretch of the federal highway that runs along the Atlantic coast of France. The rest of the time, the Passage du Gois is flooded with up to 4 meters of water. So, driving or crossing it is out of the question. By the way, French authorities recommend that everyone who travels on this road brings boats with them as a precaution. Fairy Meadows. And what could be wrong with a road with such a beautiful name? Well, actually everything. Fairy Meadows is a road, the most dangerous road in Pakistan. It is 3.3 kilometers above sea level here. It is narrow, it follows directly along the mountains so that on one side the driver sees a wall of rock from which huge boulders can fall at any moment, and on the other he sees a huge abyss into which he does not want to fall. The picture is completed with a gravel surface on which it is not easy to pass even with a powerful and reliable car. Add a lot of twisted serpentines to that, all of which await the driver for the next 16 kilometers, which he will never forget. By the way, this road has been in operation for several hundred years and has never been reworked, so we see the original version of the road. We're heading to Nepal in Asia, where the Karnali Highway is located. It is the brother of the Fairy Meadow Road, and it's similar to the one in Pakistan in many ways, especially in terms of danger. However, the Karnali Highway is much longer, stretching about 250 kilometers, and claims the lives of 50 people every year. And that's not all. The lack of guardrails, the risk of rockfalls, frequent landslides, a huge abyss on one side, a narrow track, and much more make this a truly hellish combination, don't you think? Authorities try to protect drivers by keeping them off the road. For example, cars are banned from circulating for a good part of the year. But that doesn't stop locals from using motorcycles, off-road vehicles, and buses every day. You can see many cars here. Maybe the Nepalese are the bravest people in the world. The Karnali Highway connects dozens of local villages, and there's simply no alternative way to reach some communities. Therefore, Nepalese people have to drive on this terrible road at their own risk. But even these last two roads, despite all the dangers, are inferior compared to the death road in Bolivia. It's unbelievable, right? Unfortunately, it's also true. Victims are not uncommon here and are regular. In short, it's a nightmare. The road is so scary that it gives you chills just looking at it. There's an enormous mountain on one side and a huge abyss on the other, with no fences to separate them. Drivers run the risk of being hit by a rock or flying hundreds of meters deep. But that's not all. The road is not widened, and the track width is just over 3 meters. It's difficult to drive on such a narrow track, and imagine if you collide with an oncoming car. This scenario is not uncommon here, and one of the drivers has to reverse, which is extremely dangerous and difficult under these conditions. In addition, the terrible muddy pavement makes it the most dangerous road on the planet. This is what most experts say about the Bolivian death road. I don't know how brave you have to be to drive here. We return to Asia, where the Karakoram Highway is located in the pass known as the Karakoram Range, whose altitude exceeds 4.5 kilometers. This highway is the highest in the world and, therefore, extremely dangerous. Firstly, due to the high altitude, an inexperienced driver may suffer from lack of oxygen and become a victim. In addition, the area around the highway presents a high risk of landslides and poor weather conditions. For this reason, the highway is closed during the winter as it is almost impossible to drive on it during this time. In the summer, the highway is also very dangerous, and it is therefore better to avoid it. Drivers planning to visit Afghanistan are strongly advised to avoid the Jalalabad Road. This approximately 60 km long highway connects two towns with the same name and has been the scene of daily accidents for many years, many of them fatal. Residents have stopped keeping records of accidents because absolutely everyone knows the notorious characteristics of the narrow mountain road here. The reason is simple: most Afghan drivers disregard their own safety and drive at a dizzying speed through the tight curves of this mountain road, which is not a good combination with narrow curves. Here is the Dalton Highway. But why is it here in this episode where there are dangerous cliffs, where everything is narrow, and mountains with falling rocks, where the most dangerous winding roads are? It doesn't have any of that, but that doesn't mean it's safe. This highway is in Alaska, stretching for 666 kilometers, the number of the beast. Suspicious, isn't it? Yes, this is the Dalton Highway, could very well be called a messed up road because there's almost no infrastructure along the way. The driver will only find a few small towns and gas stations, the rest of the time it's just a straight road through the cold and rugged Alaska. At many points, there's no cell phone service and there's nothing and nobody to help. This means you need to rely only on yourself. If the car breaks down or runs out of gas, the driver will be lost. But even the track itself isn't perfect. It's covered in ice and potholes, so you can easily get into an accident. Authorities strongly advise drivers to prepare for a trip with all the equipment and supplies they need in case something goes wrong. Write in the comments which of these roads you would dare to drive. The Chernobyl disaster, which occurred in 1986, created another unusual and mysterious place. The consequences of the disaster still require the preservation of the exclusion zone around the power plant. The secrets that this area holds still stir people's minds, but what dangers lurk in this area and what local findings scare even experienced scientists? Let's find out. Many animals that were near the reactor at the time of the explosion died within a few hours. The forest near reactor number 4 was also contaminated, subsequently receiving a special name, becoming known as the Red Forest, because the trees that received the most emissions of radioactive dust during the reactor explosion soon changed their leaves from green to orange and brown. In the process of eliminating the consequences of the accident, the Red Forest was cut down, and yet rusted trees can still be found in Chernobyl. The radiation around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant is still considered high today. However, scientists have noticed that during 35 years of isolation, the area around the plant has turned into a kind of nature reserve, which now houses many species of animals and birds, including the rarest ones, and the mainstream media tries not to discuss much about the mutations in the forests of Chernobyl, but there are still famous examples. There are giant catfish living in cooling tanks near the factory. Years of peaceful life and good food away from humans have allowed these fish to grow to unbelievable sizes. People who have been near the lakes have shared videos on the internet that clearly show that some of the catfish are well over 2 meters long, but there are rumors of even larger individuals in the lakes around Chernobyl. Reports from researchers show that the fish's bodies really accumulate a large amount of radiation. However, the uncontrolled growth of the catfish has nothing to do with that. According to biologists, the catfish with several meters in length became so simply because nothing threatened them, losing all their natural enemies. The long-lived fish were growing because no one was bothering them. The food supply from humans also played a role. Many people who passed by the lakes showed affection by throwing treats to the giants. The exclusion zone has become a nature reserve. Here you can find foxes, wolves, deer, and wild boars. Rare species of birds, including owls and eagles, have settled comfortably in the marshy area. The radiation really no longer affects the fauna. In 2014, scientists placed 42 motion-sensitive hidden cameras in different parts of the exclusion zone. All species of animals that appeared on video were monitored for a long time according to the report. No major abnormality was detected, and overall, the picture seemed almost perfect. However, what scientists discovered in the Chernobyl forest surprised the whole world. But before that, I would like to talk about the fact that not only animals live in Chernobyl's exclusion zone. Few people know that some 100 people also live here. Almost all of them are workers and scientists. Although high settlers live nearby, they are people who refuse to leave their homes despite the danger. One of the last censuses of Chernobyl residents was conducted in 2017. At that time, 84 people were declared in the official statistics. It is no surprise that most of them are elderly people who live in small villages with just over 10 people living in each of these villages. However, among the high settlers, there are also people who live alone. The autonomous settlers brought an unexpected surprise to the scientists. Recently, researchers discovered a herd of cows in the exclusion zone. Apparently, the cows were left alone when some settlers moved away, and surprisingly, the cows are thriving. The root of the problem lies in the events of April 26, 1986, when the destruction of reactor number 4 resulted in the largest release of radiation in history. It took 206 days to eliminate the consequences of the tragedy, and 90,000 people were mobilized to construct the sarcophagus. The first volunteers who arrived at the site became seriously ill due to radiation exposure. it was decided to replace them with robots, which constantly malfunctioned and refused to operate in the contaminated area. Subsequently, soldiers and other workers, later called liquidators, were sent to the site of the tragedy. They managed to erect a monumental concrete sarcophagus over the reactor, which was intended to contain the radiation within the plant and keep everyone else away from it. However, the sarcophagus was only designed as a temporary solution. Over time, its walls began to crack, and within 10 years of the accident, the total area of cracks was nearly 1,000 square meters. In 2007, a second sarcophagus, this time made of steel and called the new safe confinement, began to be built over the first. It was commissioned in 2019. More than 30 years have passed since the accident, and during that time, rain and winds have continued to wash the radiation from the foundations of the old sarcophagus, drop by drop. But where was this radiation going, and how far had it spread? You won't find reports on this from official sources. Even in the most modern nuclear power plants, water is inevitable because it plays three roles at the same time: it cools, evaporates, becoming steam and energizing turbines, and reduces particle movement. However, water does not slow down neutron movement, but it also accelerates addition. According to official data, the slow growth of radioactive pressure reactions in the destroyed reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant is possible for several reasons, but it is enough to recognize that the increase in the reaction rate has already been acknowledged by the scientific community. The intensity of neutron fission reactions depends on the presence of a decelerator. In this case, the decelerator is water, which can come with rain or from soil currents. Water slows down neutrons, which contributes to the rate of fission reaction in fuel masses. Additionally, when exposed to ionizing radiation, when the fuel dries, it changes its structure, which can also affect the intensity of nuclear fission. It is very complicated, unfortunately. At the same time, scientists claim that the role of water in accelerating fission has not yet been fully studied. It is interesting to note that more than €2 billion were invested in the construction of the new safe confinement. It does not allow rainwater to enter the reactor, which has stabilized the neutron flow. It began to decrease in most of the hiding places, but what if enough rainwater has already entered the first sarcophagus? In recent years, particle activity has started to increase in some of the subtractions rooms. This can be seen inside the room codenamed 305/2. It is very difficult to understand the scientific terms. Well, there are other indications of a powerful radiation source within the exclusion zone. The evidence may seem circumstantial to you, but it does not make it any less scary. As soon as the authorities announced the relative stabilization of the situation in the exclusion zone, tourists flocked to Chernobyl. Of course, pioneers risked their health and even their lives, but over the years, the radiation level has dropped, and today, official tours of the private territory in Chernobyl are allowed. Not all adventurers agree to obediently follow a guide along the paths traveled. Many who dare to visit Chernobyl do it alone. This decision was made by a British resident named New. He decided that it would not be interesting to explore the zone as part of a large group, so he hired an individual guide and went to Pripyat. The British visited the amusement park, walked through abandoned school and hospital administrative buildings, and then decided to check the radiation level of the city. The measuring device reacted slowly to the surrounding area. The radiation level in the tourist area was relatively low. Everything changed when someone found a bag full of items in the low vegetation around the city. Passing a measuring device over it, the man was surprised. The device recorded a radiation level of 2,728 millisieverts, which is 200 times higher than a computed tomography scan. Uruguay. It was there that a very strange, mysterious symbol was found. With the help of Google Maps near the city of Florida, yes, not the American state. This symbol was clearly found on the neighboring plateaus. It looks like some kind of large trident, although it is actually a landmark in Uruguay and Florida. The residents still don't know what it is. According to one version, these trees were planted in this way by farmers, and this happened 60 years ago. According to another version, it is a ritual reference to the container that contains the elixir of eternal life. Unfortunately, it is not known for sure what it really is. How about an entire village with lifeless inhabitants? If we go to the Japanese island of Shikoku and look at the village of Nagoro, we can see exactly this image. Hundreds of dolls are scattered everywhere, some sitting at the bus stop, others working in the fields, and others just hidden away. In any case, it's a scary scene that seems like something out of a horror movie, but it's a completely real place. When you discover the truth about this village, it becomes less frightening. The fact is that Nagoro used to be a fairly large village, with hundreds of people living there all the time. The village was almost completely depopulated when young people began leaving en masse in the 20th century. In the early 21st century, a woman returned there because she didn't want to see the almost deserted village. She decided to make a life-size doll for each of the departed villagers, and that's how Nagoro became the village of dolls. It's unusual, but also creepy. So, did you like today's video? So many stories and many of them creepy and unexplained. Comment below what you found interesting and surprised. Enjoy and subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell, and leave your like too. And until the next video, God bless, so allow. Kisses in the heart. I love your like, friend. Do. Bye.